Hollywood did not want Jackie Chan. Not at first. Not even close. When Bruce Lee died in 1973, American studios panicked. They had lost something rare. Speed, danger, philosophy wrapped in flesh. Executives didn't ask who could replace Bruce Lee. They asked how fast they could manufacture another one. The answer, they assumed, would come from Hong Kong. Jackie arrived as an answer nobody liked. Hollywood likes clean legends. Jackie Chan never fit one. As the years passed, his presence shifted from novelty to standard. Younger performers studied his timing the way previous generations studied footwork. Directors referenced his choreography without naming it. Action comedy stopped being a contradiction and became a genre. The industry adopted what it once resisted. But Jackie himself changed very little. He still arrived early. Still walked the set before filming, touching railings, tables, walls, testing weight, texture, stability. Still asked for fewer cuts. Still insisted that movement tell the story, not dialogue. Age slowed him, but it didn't soften the principle behind the work. Preparation is respect. Respect for the audience. Respect for the danger. Respect for the craft. What many missed was that Jackie's philosophy was never about pain. It was about responsibility. If a joke required a fall, the fall had to be real enough to justify the laugh. If a fight used the environment had to fight back. Nothing was disposable. Not bodies, not space, not consequence. That mindset influenced an entire generation of filmmakers who grew up watching him bleed and stand again. And yet, despite the accolades, the awards, the global recognition, Jackie Chan never spoke like a conqueror. In interviews, he deflected praise, emphasized teams, credited teachers long gone. When asked about legacy, he talked about timing, about rehearsal, about knowing when to stop. He knew something Hollywood often forgets. Survival is also an ending. In his later years, Jackie began choosing projects more carefully, stepping back from the most punishing stunts, not because the courage was gone, but because the lesson had been delivered. He had shown what needed to be shown. You could be human and still be heroic. You could fail and still win. You could fall and build a career on how you got back up. Bruce Lee taught the world what mastery looks like at its peak. Jackie Chan taught the world what it costs to keep going when perfection isn't possible. Together, they reshaped action cinema, not by imitation, but by contrast. And long after the bruises fade and the sets are dismantled, one truth remains carved into every ladder fall, every broken prop, every sharp intake of breath before a jump. Jackie Chan didn't survive his movies by being fearless. He survived them by being prepared. And by refusing every single time to stay down. He was smaller. His face was softer. He grimaced when he got hit. Worse, he fell down. On purpose. In early test footage, he slipped, rolled, crashed into furniture. Studio notes were blunt, too comedic, lacks intimidation. Not Bruce Lee. They were right about one thing. He wasn't. But to understand why that mattered, you had to rewind far beyond Hollywood. Back to a place that did not laugh at Jackie Chan because laughter there was punished. Jackie was 7 years old when his parents enrolled him at the China Drama Academy in Hong Kong. The school specialized in Peking opera, but school was a polite lie. It was a closed system, a controlled environment, a factory for discipline. Days began before sunrise. Training ran until exhaustion. Mistakes were corrected immediately with physical punishment. If a student fell, they were told to get up. If they cried, they were hit harder. Pain was not a failure. It was instruction. Jackie learned acrobatics before he learned comfort, balance before confidence, how to land safely before how to fight back. By the time he was a teenager, his body already carried a map of scars, bruises layered over older bruises, injuries stacked like footnotes. There was no applause in that place, only survival. That education shaped everything that followed, though no one in Hollywood knew it yet. As a young adult, Jackie entered Hong Kong cinema the way many did, anonymously. He worked as a stuntman, often for Bruce Lee himself. He watched Lee move with surgical precision, saw how silence fell when Bruce entered a frame. He understood the power of speed, of intent, but he also understood something else. Most people couldn't move like Bruce Lee. Jackie could fall, and fall again, and again. That difference would become everything. When American producers tested Jackie as a Bruce Lee replacement, they trained him to not be himself. They told him to stop smiling, to stop reacting, to stop getting hit. His early U.S. projects failed quietly. The audience felt it before critics could explain it. Something was wrong. Jackie wasn't dangerous in the way they expected. He looked human, so Hollywood moved on. For a moment, Jackie Chan nearly disappeared from the American conversation entirely. Back in Hong Kong, though, something different happened. Freed from imitation, he began to experiment. He leaned into what studios told him to erase. He showed pain on screen. He exaggerated exhaustion. He built fights where timing mattered more than dominance, where the environment, ladders, chairs, walls, became opponents, where comedy wasn't weakness but misdirection. Audiences laughed. Then they leaned forward, because the laughter came after the impact. What Hollywood missed was simple. Jackie Chan was not trying to look invincible. He was trying to show the cost of survival. Every fall was real. Every missed step carried consequence. And behind the humor was something unmistakable: risk. Viewers sensed it even if they couldn't name it. This man could actually get hurt, and he often did. Broken bones, dislocations, concussions, injuries hidden under long sleeves and wide smiles. Jackie didn't talk about it. He just kept working. The discipline from the opera school had taught him one rule: you finish the performance. Slowly, quietly, his films grew bigger. His style sharpened. The thing that made Hollywood reject him, his refusal to fight like Bruce Lee, became the reason audiences remembered him. But America still hadn't caught up. Not yet. Because the moment that would change everything, the moment when Hollywood stopped laughing, was still ahead. And it would come not from a speech, or a fight, or a challenge. It would come from a fall he almost didn't stand up from. By the late 1970s, Jackie Chan had found something rare in Hong Kong cinema: momentum. His films were no longer imitations. They were experiments. Each one asked the same question: how far can the body go before it breaks? And what does the audience feel when they see it happen in real time? The answer was never theoretical. Jackie tested it with his own bones. While other stars relied on cuts, doubles, and camera tricks, Jackie insisted on continuity. He wanted the audience to see the beginning of the movement, the mistake, and the impact in a single breath. No edits to soften it. No music to distract from it. When he fell, the camera stayed. The industry warned him. Producers told him injuries would slow production. Insurance companies refused coverage. Directors begged him to simplify. Jackie listened politely, and then climbed higher, jumped farther, ran faster. Because falling to him wasn't failure. It was honesty. The injuries accumulated quietly at first. A fractured cheekbone here, a dislocated shoulder there. Fingers snapped and reset between takes. Ankles wrapped tightly, so the camera wouldn't notice the swelling. Pain became logistical, something to manage rather than fear. Then came the falls that changed the conversation. A mistimed jump from a clock tower. A pole slide that burned through skin to bone. A mid-air collision that sent him crashing headfirst onto concrete. One wrong angle, one late grip, 1 second of miscalculation, and the body paid in full. On one set, Jackie fractured his skull and slipped into a coma. Filming stopped. Rumors spread. For the first time, laughter turned into silence. When he woke up, his head was wrapped, his hearing permanently damaged in one ear. Doctors told him to slow down, to consider alternatives, to understand that survival was no longer guaranteed. Jackie returned to set weeks later. He finished the movie. This was the paradox Hollywood never understood. The comedy worked because the danger was real. The audience laughed not because Jackie was invulnerable, but because they could feel how close he came to losing control, and how hard he fought to regain it. Each gag was built on risk. Each joke landed only after the audience registered the threat. Chairs shattered, glass exploded, bodies flew. And when Jackie hit the ground, he stayed down just long enough for viewers to feel the cost. That rhythm, tension, impact, release, became his signature. By the time his films began circulating internationally, something shifted. American audiences who had dismissed him years earlier encountered a different figure now. Not a replacement, not a copy, something more unsettling. A man who bled. Hollywood's second look at Jackie Chan was cautious. Studios still didn't know how to market him. He wasn't stoic. He wasn't silent. He reacted. He smiled. He lost fights before he won them. In test screenings, viewers leaned forward during his action scenes, wincing, gasping, then laughing in relief when he stood back up. Executives finally noticed what mattered. People remembered the falls. They remembered the ladders, the windows, the missed landings. They remembered how close it felt to disaster. Jackie wasn't selling dominance. He was selling survival under pressure, and that was something American action cinema hadn't fully explored. But acceptance didn't come all at once. Jackie still had to compromise. Language barriers, cultural misunderstandings, scripts that flattened his rhythm. Some early Hollywood projects stumbled. The formula wasn't fully translated yet. What was translated, unmistakably, was the risk. Behind the scenes, crews watched him work in disbelief. No doubles, no shortcuts. When something went wrong, Jackie adjusted the angle and tried again, not out of recklessness, but control. He trusted the discipline drilled into him as a child, the ability to fall correctly, to absorb impact, to protect the head at the last second. Every take was a calculation. Every joke was earned. By the time Hollywood realized what it had in front of it, the narrative had already changed. Jackie Chan was no longer the man who failed to replace someone else. He was the man who refused to fight the same way, and paid for it with his body. Audiences didn't just watch his movies. They survived them with him, and soon that survival would collide with the full weight of American stardom, forcing Hollywood to accept a truth it had avoided for decades. You don't need to look invincible to become legendary. You just need to keep getting back up. Hollywood didn't change its mind about Jackie Chan all at once. It surrendered slowly, reluctantly, after realizing something uncomfortable. He couldn't be replaced, he couldn't be replicated, and he couldn't be stopped. When American studios finally committed to him again in the mid-1990s, they still didn't fully understand what made him work. They paired him with louder co-stars, simpler scripts, clearer comedic beats. They assumed the humor carried the action. They were wrong. What carried everything was risk. In films like Rumble in the Bronx and later Rush Hour, American audiences saw something they hadn't been trained to expect. An action star who absorbed punishment on screen, reacted in real time, and visibly paid for every mistake. Jackie didn't cut away from danger, he lingered in it. Viewers noticed. They noticed the pauses after a fall. They noticed the way he tested a limb before standing. They noticed the split second where he calculated whether he could continue. That awareness changed the relationship between star and audience. Jackie wasn't above them, he was with them, improvising under pressure, adapting when plans collapsed, and that made him unforgettable. Behind the scenes, the toll was impossible to ignore. By the time Jackie became a true Hollywood fixture, his medical record read like a stunt reel. Nearly every major bone had been broken at least once. His skull fracture left permanent damage. His spine carried compression injuries. His joints were worn down far beyond his years. Insurance clauses grew longer. Safety meetings grew quieter. Yet Jackie kept insisting on one rule. If the audience could tell a stunt was fake, it didn't belong in the film. Not because he was reckless, but because honesty mattered. To him, action was a language, and lies broke fluency. As his fame expanded globally, Jackie did something few action stars ever attempted. He documented his failures. End credit bloopers showed missed landings, broken props, genuine pain. He pulled back the curtain instead of hiding behind myth. That choice cemented his legacy. Audiences no longer just admired the character, they respected the man. They understood that every laugh had been purchased with risk, preparation, and consequences. Jackie never pretended to be superhuman. He proved the opposite, and that was why people trusted him. Over time, Hollywood adjusted. Scripts began to accommodate his rhythm. Directors allowed longer takes. Producers accepted that the action didn't need exaggeration if the danger was real. Jackie Chan had quietly rewritten the rules. Years later, when asked why he never tried to be the next Bruce Lee, Jackie gave a simple answer. Bruce was perfection. Jackie was persistence. Bruce Lee showed the ideal of mastery, speed without hesitation, power without waste. Jackie showed the reality of survival. What happens when things go wrong and you keep moving anyway? Together they defined two ends of the same philosophy. One showed how to strike, the other showed how to endure. And in doing so, Jackie became something Hollywood had never planned for. Not a replacement, not an alternative, but a category of one. An action star whose legend wasn't built on being untouchable, but on standing back up when everything went wrong. That is why, decades later, audiences still flinch when he jumps. They know the fall is real, and they know he might not get up.